My name is Uthred, son of Uthred. I was born an elderman of Northumbria, the rightful heir to Bebbanburg, but fate decreed I would be raised as a Dane. That was my life, until my family was murdered. My journey continues. My path leads north to blood fields, to revenge, and to Bebbanburg. Destiny is all. Who doesn't know the famous lines from the favorite Netflix series The Last Kingdom by Uthred from Bebbanburg? Many of us are familiar with Uthred thanks to the Netflix series The Final Kingdom. Here he pulls off a number of amazing feats, like killing the great warrior Abba and fighting alongside Alfred the Great. Being the sword and mind that enabled it, he did not want his kingdom to be taken over by the Vikings. Uthred, however, was very real. It was based on Uthred, a real-life person, the brave alderman of Northumbria. The events depicted in the show occur in the late 9th century. The real Uthred was created when England still had several realms and kings. Let's explore the real Uthred and learn more about this in the 10th century, when England was a united land ruled by one king. First, the enigmatic figure. Let's examine his family history and his early years. Wartjof, the elderman of Bambra, was the father of Uthred, who inherited a strong lineage from his father. For many generations, their ancestors had ruled the Bambra castle on the Northumbrian coast. Nothing is known for sure about Uthred's early life, but as a son of an older man, he undoubtedly had a better upbringing than most kids who were taught the skills of war, diplomacy and swordplay. In historical records, Uthred first appears in the year 995. According to English chronicler and monk Simon of Durham, Uthred went to oversee the transfer of Saint Cuthbert's remains and assisted in preparing a location for a new church. As revered as Saint Cuthbert was a Northumbrian patron saint, there was numerous miracles connected to him. For instance, Saint Cuthbert appeared to Wessex King Alfred the Great and urged him to continue to fight against the Danes. He was motivated by this to retake his lands. Following this, the Wessex kings became the monarchs of England. Bishop Eldon founded the cathedral to which Cuthbert's remains were transferred. Additionally, Uthred later wed his daughter. Due to his assistance in what he was regarded as a task of utmost importance, he would receive from this marriage the estates that belonged to him. Nearly 10 years later, in the year 1006, the Scots, Malcolm II, would march an army into Northumbria and wreak havoc and invade its lands. Even Durham city was under siege. Where his son Cuthbert's remains had previously been found, more remains of him were found. The unprepared were eaten by the English king. He was unable to send assistance because he had to deal with Viking raids in the south already. The father of Uthred was also too old and weak to fight the Scots, and the Helm of York elders ceased. Nothing was done, either out of cowardice or malfeasance. Uthred was therefore left in charge. In order to defeat the Scots, Uthred would take command of his father's men. Although the name of his conflict has since been forgotten, Uthred emerged victorious. Uthred the Bold would come to be known for his military prowess, and his forces would follow his. The fierceness of the battle was breathtaking. Numerous Scots would be found dead on the Durham battlefield by the local women. The heads of the Scottish warriors who had been beheaded would be washed, getting them prepared to be mounted on spikes as a warning not to march south ever again. Due to Uthred's valor, devotion, and reputed King Ethelred, he was given both kingship and warrior status. Despite the fact that his father was still alive, he gave him the title Elder of Bambra. This was most likely brought on by the fact that his father's men were now loyal to him following the defeat of the Scots. Because of his battle prowess, Uthred's youth, and his ability to take the lead over the northern forces. Why did he achieve such a resounding victory? In addition, King Ethelred would mandate the murder of York's elders. It was completed. Ethelm was no longer dependable, so he opted not to take action against the Scots. Uthred was rewarded after he was put to death. Along with his possessions, the senior man also succeeded him under Uthred's rule. York united northern and southern Northumbria. There was a relative for a while, peace. The Vikings were constantly conducting raids, but there were never full-scale conflicts. However, blood feuds and ambition went hand in hand with war. Men would go insane from the lust of it. The current year in war is 1013. King Sweyn also prohibited the invasion of England by the kings of Denmark and Norway. We sailed up the Humber and Trench rivers with him and his army. I traveled to Gainesborough before leaving. Uthred was not entirely satisfied and realized that if his men faced King Sweyn's forces, nothing but destruction would remain in their wake. That would result in both his and all of his men's death. He therefore set aside his ego and knelt before King Sweyn before taking the oath. The traitor was responsible for driving the Etheril king into exile in Normandy and out of his own kingdom. Sweyn would be acknowledged as the new monarch of England, but only 5 short weeks into his reign, he passed away unexpectedly. Upon his return from exile, Ethelred would re-establish his kingship. He gave the Saxons his alliance, and he, Uthred, would once more return to rule Ethelred. He was married at the same time. Knut, the son of Elgifu, Sweyn and Ethelred's daughter, stayed in England. He desired the crown though, and was ready to die to protect it. Prince Edmund Ironside, the son of King Ethelred, rallied the English troops, and the Vikings were routed in a surprise assault to their longships once more. Knut narrowly avoided death, and he was forced to return by boat. The choice was made by Knut a few years later. Uthred, who was leading an army toward England, was a supporter of Edmund Ironside. According to legend, Edmund was one of England's top swordsmen, was respected by all because he had an iron will and was strong, Viking or Saxon. Together, Uthred and Edmund would run for office, but Canute invaded Yorkshire while Uthred was out of the country in Cheshire. Although Uthred and Edmund had shed blood together, Uthred had a duty to his people and land first. He was aware that history would repeat itself, and he had no chance of defeating Canute. He treated his son with the same respect that he had shown to King Sweyn. Canute, when Uthred was on his way to a meeting, he received a call. Canute probably agreed to the ambush and murdered all of his 40 men because Uthred had a shaky commitment to Turband, Saxons and Vikings. After Turband killed Uthred, a blood feud that lasted for generations began. Ildred, Uthred's son, killed to exact revenge on his father. Ildred, but also Turband. Karl, Turband's son, executed him. Ildred had to wait until the 1070s to exact her revenge when royalty from the second Ildred. Most of Karl's son and grandsons were killed by his grandson's soldiers. There was intense animosity between the families. It all began with Uthred's murder, of course. Uthred's story came to an end here. The Last Kingdom books were written by Bernard Cornwell. After learning that he was an ancestor of Uthred the Brave, he was motivated to write the final. Uthred was an ancestor of his. Ironside, Sweyn, Thorgerd and Canute, the Viking greats, were just a few of the giants that Uthred coexisted with. In addition to Edmund, he was ultimately killed by the politics of war and men. But he was undoubtedly a hero who should be remembered. I sincerely hope you liked the video. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe. Also, please share the video on your socials. Comment down below any juicy details we missed about the life of Uthred, and I would love to discuss them with you. Also, make sure to click the video you see on screen right now, because we are discussing the life of another legendary Viking from the past.